The drone footage captures it perfectly. The port of Miami stretching endlessly toward the horizon, a steel forest of cargo containers stacked 20 stories high, massive ships sliding through turquoise waters like floating cities. Four cliffs buzz between towers of freight like worker ants, moving billions of dollars in legitimate cargo through America's gateway to Latin America. But hidden within this choreographed chaos, one man was orchestrating the largest port heist in Florida history. For 6 months, cargo loader Manuel Rivas systematically smuggled $26.4 million in cartel drug money through shipping containers bound for Panama and Colombia, right under the noses of customs agents, port security, and federal investigators. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe for more true crime stories and comment below where you're watching from. He turned America's busiest cruise port into his personal money laundering operation. FBI Special Agent Carmen Rodriguez would later explain. $26 million walked out of Miami in shipping containers, and nobody noticed until it was already gone. The discovery would expose vulnerabilities in port security that criminal organizations had been exploiting for years, launch a federal manhunt that continues today, and prove that the greatest threats to America's borders often come from the most trusted insiders. Manuel Rivas was exactly the kind of port worker that security systems are designed to trust. At 43, he had spent 17 years loading cargo at the Port of Miami, earning a reputation for reliability, punctuality, and professional competence. His supervisors knew him as a steady worker who volunteered for overtime shifts and rarely called in sick. Manuel was the guy you could count on, recalls his supervisor Carlos Mendez. Need someone to work a double shift? Manuel would stay. Holiday weekend when everyone wants off, Manuel would be there. He wasn't the most talkative guy, but he knew his job and did it well. That reliability was precisely what made Rivas so valuable to criminal organizations seeking to infiltrate America's shipping infrastructure. As a senior cargo loader with 17 years of experience, Rivas had unrestricted access to container storage areas, knowledge of shipping schedules weeks in advance, and the authority to move cargo between different zones of the port facility. More importantly, Rivas worked the night shift, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., when oversight was minimal and security focused primarily on perimeter threats rather than internal operations. During those crucial hours, Rivas could move containers, alter documentation, and coordinate with external partners without attracting attention from management or federal agents. His background seemed unimpeachable. Clean criminal record, stable employment history, modest lifestyle in a Hialeah apartment. Rivas drove a 10-year-old sedan, paid his bills on time, and appeared to live comfortably within his legitimate income. The perfect employee and the perfect inside man for what investigators would later describe as one of the most sophisticated port infiltration operations we've ever encountered. But beneath this facade of middle-class respectability, Rivas had been cultivating relationships with criminal organizations and accumulating wealth that far exceeded his official salary. The recruitment began 8 months before the first money transfer at Café Versailles, the legendary Cuban restaurant in Little Havana that serves as an informal meeting place for Miami's diverse maritime community. Rivas was having his usual post-shift breakfast when two well-dressed men approached his table with an unusual business proposition. They introduced themselves as representatives of a logistics consulting firm that helped companies navigate complex international shipping regulations. Their leader, who called himself Eduardo Santos, seemed to possess detailed knowledge of port operations and spoke knowledgeably about cargo handling procedures, customs documentation, and shipping schedules. Eduardo made it sound completely legitimate. Rivas would later tell federal investigators in a recorded phone call that surfaced after his disappearance. He said there were businesses that needed certain shipments to move through the system more efficiently. Nothing illegal, just helping priority cargo avoid bureaucratic delays that hurt international competitiveness. What Rivas didn't know was that Eduardo Santos was actually Miguel Herrera, a lieutenant in a money laundering network operated by the Iutanam Medellin cartel. Herrera had spent months studying port operations and employee profiles, identifying Rivas as the ideal recruitment target: experienced, trusted, with high-level access and minimal supervision during critical overnight hours. The initial offer was staggering: $50,000 up front, with additional payments of $25,000 for each successful operation. All Rivas had to do was ensure that specific containers moved through the port without detailed inspection, using his legitimate authority to expedite cargo that his new partners described as time-sensitive business equipment. They made it seem patriotic almost, Rivas recalled. Said American businesses were losing competitive advantage because of excessive bureaucracy. Made me feel like I was helping the economy instead of breaking the law. The first job was designed as a test of both Rivas's capabilities and his commitment. He received detailed instructions about a specific container arriving from Houston that required expedited processing to meet an urgent delivery deadline in Colombia. The container was officially carrying automotive parts, but Herrera's organization needed it processed quickly to avoid quality control delays. Rivas used his supervisory authority to move the container directly from ship to export staging without the detailed inspection that regulations required for certain types of cargo. The operation went flawlessly, and Rivas received his promised payment, $50,000 cash delivered to a safety deposit box he had never used before. Only later would investigators discover that the container had actually carried $3.2 million in vacuum-sealed drug proceeds disguised as legitimate automotive equipment. Over the following months, Rivas became the cornerstone of a sophisticated money laundering operation that exploited Miami's massive shipping volume to move millions of dollars in cartel proceeds to South American destinations. The system used legitimate export containers to hide carefully packaged bundles of drug money among legitimate cargo. The process began when cartel distributors collected cash proceeds from drug sales across the southeastern United States. Miami, Atlanta, Orlando, Jacksonville, anywhere the organization maintained significant retail operations. The money was counted, bundled, and vacuum sealed using industrial equipment that removed air and moisture while reducing volume to maximize shipping efficiency. These cash bundles were then concealed inside specially modified shipping crates that appeared identical to legitimate cargo containers. To fool detection systems and customs inspectors, the money was hidden among genuine automotive parts, electronics, and industrial machinery bound for legitimate businesses in Panama, Colombia, and Venezuela. The containers were loaded onto cargo ships during Rivas's overnight shift, when port activity was reduced and oversight was minimal. Rivas used his legitimate supervisory authority to ensure that specific containers bypassed detailed inspection and moved directly to ships bound for South American ports. At destination ports, cartel operatives claiming to represent legitimate import businesses would claim the containers and transport them to counting houses where the money was extracted, sorted, and integrated into the criminal organizations. Financial systems. The entire process, from Miami loading dock to Colombian bank account, took less than 2 weeks. Rivas's compensation escalated dramatically as his role expanded. What started as $50,000 payments grew to $75,000. Then $100,000 per successful shipment. The cartel used a sophisticated payment system that avoided traditional banking channels. Cryptocurrency transfers to accounts Rivas controlled, high-value items delivered to secure locations, and direct cash payments through intermediaries who had no knowledge of the broader operation. Gold coins, luxury watches, rare artwork, all items that maintain value while being difficult to trace through traditional financial monitoring systems. Rivas was careful to liquidate these assets gradually through different dealers and auction houses, always staying below federal reporting thresholds. The communication system was elegant in its simplicity. Rivas never met Eduardo Santos again after their initial encounter. Instructions arrived through encrypted messaging apps on secure phones, always using code words related to legitimate shipping operations. Automotive delivery meant money container. Express processing indicated urgent timeline. Quality inspection provided specific handling instructions. By March 2024, investigators estimate that Rivas had facilitated the export of $26.4 million in cartel proceeds while accumulating over $800,000 in personal compensation. The system Rivas helped create was nearly perfect in its exploitation of legitimate shipping infrastructure. The Port of Miami processes over 1 million containers annually, making detailed inspection of every shipment physically and economically impossible. Rivas's criminal partners had identified this vulnerability and designed their operation to blend seamlessly with legitimate cargo flows. Each money shipment was carefully disguised among genuine export cargo bound for established businesses in South America. The containers carried legitimate bills of lading, proper customs documentation, and cargo manifests that matched actual business transactions. To casual inspection, Everything appeared completely normal. The timing was crucial. Rivas worked exclusively during overnight shifts when port activity was reduced and management oversight was minimal. He could move containers between different storage areas, expedite specific shipments, and coordinate with external partners without attracting attention from supervisors or federal agents. The weight discrepancy that would eventually expose the operation was actually quite small. Cash is surprisingly dense. $1 million in $100 bills weighs approximately 22 pounds. When distributed among genuine automotive parts and industrial equipment, the additional weight was barely noticeable and fell within normal cargo weight variations. More importantly, the containers were processed during Rivas's shift by workers who had been specifically selected for their lack of curiosity about cargo contents. The port employed hundreds of temporary workers, contract employees, and part-time staff who were focused on moving containers efficiently rather than questioning their contents. Rivas had essentially created a criminal express lane through one of America's most secure ports, using his legitimate authority and trusted position to facilitate massive money laundering operations that federal agents would later describe as unprecedented in their scope and sophistication. The operation might have continued indefinitely if not for a routine customs inspection at the port of Colón in Panama. Panamanian authorities conducting a random cargo check noticed that container MIAU-7742, officially carrying automotive parts from Miami, weighed significantly more than its manifest indicated. When customs agents opened the container for physical inspection, they discovered vacuum-sealed bundles of U.S. currency hidden inside genuine automotive component crates. A careful count revealed $4.7 million in cash, representing the proceeds from drug sales across multiple southeastern states. The money was packaged with professional precision, recalls Panamanian Customs Inspector Maria Gonzalez. Vacuum sealed to prevent moisture damage, organized by denomination, and hidden so skillfully that we almost missed it. This wasn't amateur smuggling. This was institutional-level money laundering. Panamanian authorities immediately contacted U.S. federal agencies, providing shipping documentation that traced the container back to the port of Miami. Within hours, FBI agents were reviewing surveillance footage, employee records, and cargo manifests to identify how $4.7 million in drug money had been exported through one of America's most secure shipping facilities. The investigation quickly focused on unusual patterns in container handling during overnight shifts. Computer analysis revealed that specific containers consistently moved through the port faster than normal processing times would suggest, and that these expedited containers were consistently handled by the same work crew. Rivas's name appeared repeatedly in handling records for suspicious containers, and his financial records showed unexplained income that far exceeded his legitimate salary. Bank account analysis revealed regular large cash deposits, cryptocurrency transactions, and purchases of high-value items that were inconsistent with his declared income. More damaging was surveillance footage that showed Rivas accessing restricted container storage areas during shifts when he wasn't officially assigned to those zones. Federal agents realized they were looking at systematic exploitation of port security by someone with intimate knowledge of shipping operations and cargo handling procedures. Rivas wasn't just moving containers, Agent Rodriguez observed. He was running a criminal operation inside our port facility, using his legitimate authority to facilitate massive money laundering. The sophistication was extraordinary. Federal agents had identified Rivas as their primary suspect within 48 hours of the Panamanian discovery, but they needed additional evidence to secure arrest and conviction. The plan was to place Rivas under surveillance while building a comprehensive case against his criminal network. They were too late. On March 18th, Rivas failed to report for his scheduled shift at the port of Miami. When supervisors called his apartment, the phone had been disconnected. When federal agents arrived at his Hialeah residence, they found the apartment completely empty, not just of personal belongings, but cleaned with professional thoroughness. Rivas didn't just move out, Agent Rodriguez recalls. He erased himself from that apartment. No fingerprints, no DNA, no indication of where he might have gone. The cleaning was so complete it looked like a crime scene remediation. The investigation revealed that Rivas had been preparing his disappearance for weeks. Bank records showed that he had been gradually withdrawing money from his accounts, always staying below federal reporting thresholds. His final withdrawal, $9,800 in cash, had occurred at 3:47 a.m. on March 17th, less than 12 hours before his shift. More disturbing was the discovery that Rivas had established multiple false identities over the preceding months. Driver's licenses, social security numbers, and credit card accounts under names that didn't exist in any government database. He hadn't just planned to disappear, he had planned to become someone else entirely. Surveillance footage from Tampa's Greyhound bus station showed a man matching Rivas's description, purchasing a ticket to Atlanta using cash and false identification. The timestamp indicated he had traveled directly from Miami after his final bank withdrawal, suggesting careful coordination and advanced planning. But the trail went cold in Atlanta. Bus station cameras showed the man disembarking, but he immediately disappeared into the city's transportation network. Federal agents found no hotel registrations, rental car agreements, or airline bookings under any of Rivas's known identities. Rivas's disappearance was just the beginning of a federal investigation that would expose a criminal network spanning multiple states and countries. Intelligence analysis revealed that the Port of Miami operation was part of a much larger money laundering system that included corrupted employees at shipping facilities in Houston, Los Angeles, and New York. The criminal organization had systematically infiltrated America's maritime shipping infrastructure, recruiting port workers, customs brokers, and transportation coordinators who could facilitate the movement of drug proceeds through legitimate cargo channels. Each port operation was designed to blend seamlessly with normal shipping activities, while moving millions of dollars in criminal proceeds. Financial forensics revealed the true scope of the operation. Over 18 months, the criminal network had moved over $150 million through corrupted port facilities, using techniques that exploited weaknesses in cargo inspection procedures and customs documentation requirements. Rivas was just one component in a criminal machine that had turned our entire shipping system into a money laundering operation, Agent Rodriguez explains. They had people in ports, customs offices, and transportation companies across multiple states. It was institutional-level corruption. The investigation also revealed that Rivas had been more valuable to the criminal organization than initially understood. His 17 years of port experience had made him an expert in shipping procedures, customs requirements, and cargo handling protocols. This expertise had been used to design money laundering techniques that other port employees could implement. Intelligence intercepts suggested that Rivas had been training other corrupted port workers, sharing his knowledge of security vulnerabilities and cargo handling procedures that could be exploited for criminal purposes. His disappearance represented the loss of not just one criminal operative, but a key figure who understood how to exploit America's shipping infrastructure. The FBI continues to seek information about Manuel Rivas's whereabouts. Anyone with information is asked to contact the FBI's Miami field office. A reward of up to $250,000 is offered for information leading to his arrest and conviction.